This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So there are good dentists and bad dentists, good mechanics and horrible mechanics. Mechanics you never want to go back to again. We are fortunate to have on the show today Kathy Hill with TaxTiger. It's taxtiger.com if you want to look her up online. And what we're covering today is the difference between paying your taxes and being behind and feeling that weight, and then getting it settled for pennies on the dollar. We've covered stories where somebody was over $120,000 in debt with the IRS, and it was settled for only $50. Somebody that had tens of thousands of dollars settled for $20. And of course, payment plans and all the different options that there are that Kathy offers. But you may be thinking, okay, well, Kathy sounds great, but I'm gonna Google some competitors and see what other options are out there. And Kathy, what happens when people do that typically? Because your results are just unparalleled in the industry. Mm-hmm. So what have you seen when people come to you and they're like, hey, we tried option A and now we want to deal with a tax tigress?
Well, here's how, in all of my years of research, my competition mm-hmm. works in various ways to what I call defraud the client. So they're out there to get the clients, the taxpayers' money. And in my experience and in the stories that I hear, they care little for the actual person. They just want the money.
Just transactions.
Just transactions is all it is. So to get that client, because it's a competitive industry, and I think there's 100 tax resolution companies around the nation that do this. So they'll try to get clients in one of two ways. They'll quote a low fee, I call them bottom feeders. Yeah. They quote a low fee. And so if a person is shopping around and basing it only on fees and how much they have to pay, then they might try to choose one of these low guys that charges a very low amount. And then they get ripped off and their tax problem doesn't even get fixed. I hear that over and over. So those guys are just after the money and they don't do anything.
So people they're bargain shopping. They've selected the lowest fee.
Yes.
And then they pay that nominal fee and then nothing happens. And then they have to go and pay more money to get it actually resolved.
Bingo.
Got it.
There's clients on the other end of the scale that charge way too much money, huge exorbitant amounts of money, and still don't fix the problem. I hear that day after day. So you're on the low end, you're on the high end. There's a lot of that. When I started TaxTiger 20 years ago, researching the industry, I found, to my shock, that there were 3 big giant companies in this industry, huge mega firms that were doing this, and all 3 of them were shysters. One was right here in California, one was in Texas, and one was in South Carolina.
Is that an IRS term, shyster?
That's my term.
Those are your term. That's a Kathy Hill term.
I call them shysters.
Oh my gosh! But there were 3 main ones.
There were 3 big mega firms, and in my research, I found that all 3 of these big companies were doing $30 million a year in revenue. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
$30 million a year, and all 3 of them were defrauding the public. All 3 of them had gotten away with it for 15 years.
Wow.
And I said, how can this be? Because it's illegal to defraud the public.
When you say defraud, like what specifically were they doing that was fraudulent?
They were taking people's money and not doing the work.
Oh.
So you can't pay somebody a fee to, for instance, get a settlement offer and then you get nothing. And they don't even put the settlement offer in.
That's horrible.
You paid for a service that you didn't get.
So it's not like, okay, yeah. So they're promising X. They're not delivering, but they still require you to pay.
Exactly. So what happened, this is a good part of this story. What happened is I started TaxTiger and I began praying. I pray a lot over everything. And I began praying that God would take down those 3 big shysters. And it took a few years. It was 4 or 5 years into my 20-year plan. But guess what happened? In the same exact year, 3 different states, the Attorney General of California came in, the Attorney General of Texas, and the Attorney General of South Carolina in the same exact year. Now, how did that happen? That was God.
Wow.
And took all 3 of them out of business. Boom, they're gone. One of them got led away in handcuffs to jail. And now my 3 biggest competitors were gone. But that leaves plenty of more of them out there. Mm-hmm. So the biggest problem with my competition is that they don't do a good job, if they do any job at all, of solving somebody's tax problem. So I want to just read you one quick example of what a client wrote to me when he came to me and I fixed his problem, and then he wrote this review online. I took it offline to bring today because it's right from his heart. And he says, I have been with the IRS with issues for literally over 10 years. I've had problems with the IRS. I have had at least 3 other tax law firms that said they specialized in the offer and compromise program to represent me. All 3 of these firms took my money. They dragged out the process and got no resolution. I'm very thankful that I found TaxTiger. They are amazing. I was kept apprised of all communications. TaxTiger puts these big companies to shame. A big thank you to TaxTiger for renewing my faith in this process. So that right there tells you that he paid 3 different companies, big ones, that claim they were experts. He wasted his money 3 times and got nothing until he came to me.
So people are like gonna just go to TaxTiger.com. I want to reach out to you directly, but if they are doing their research, because a lot of times people will research other options, what are some red flags? What are some things that people can be aware of when researching tax resolution companies, so that way they don't end up as one of the...
Well, you need to go to the Better Business Bureau for one thing.
Oh.
Because we've had a Better Business Bureau A+ rating for all 20 years. That's a good indicator right there. So look at the Better Business Bureau rating, and then call and start asking questions to some of these people, and don't give them automatically your money. I had a client call me just this week, and he said, Kathy, I called one of these companies that advertises on TV, one of the big ones, your competition. He said, I did not like the sound of them. They sounded like a used car salesman. They pressured me to give them money, boom, without ever even analyzing my situation. You see, you've got to do a free consultation. You've got to analyze the assets and the income before you know what program they qualify for or how much to charge them.
That's a really good point. It's almost like a doctor just assigning medication without ever meeting with you.
Bingo. That's a good analogy, Johnny.
Thank you. Yeah. So unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I know it's so great having you on the show. Thank you so much. So if you want to reach out to Kathy Hill with TaxTiger, go to TaxTiger.com. That's TaxTiger.com. Great name, by the way.
Thank you.
And then you can also call them directly at 916-393-9085. That's 916-393-9085. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Johnny.
All right, have a great day.
You too.